Islam, Ibu, Haq, Salam, Huriyatun wa Adl. That's Arabic for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I greet you, Moors. Khalid Amin Rabe, your host. Thank you for joining me this Piscean evening. I hope you all are looking forward to the Moorish New Year. That's going to be March 21st, when the sun crosses the equator in Sumatra, India, which will signal growth, prosperity, and joy for all and a new start. In these last few days of Pisces, we should be reflecting on kind of some of our activities of the last 365 days so that we can better navigate moving forward, and everything will be above board and on the square. And so if you're undergoing that process, I greet you also, as I also myself am. Kind of sitting here outside, so you might hear a little bit of background noise, but just want to do a kind of formal, informal tape, because we will be dealing with a few heavy topics and things that I was just kind of covering in my personal studies, dealing with Rex 84, the King Alfred plan, as well as just some kind of notes on the what I like to call distraction theory, or really the process of the Romans as they keep us ever distracted so that we can't focus on the real issues and how to really realign our social, political, financial, and spiritual situation around our proper culture. And so I just want to also do a brief note before we begin on the 5 principles of fellowship, or the 5 principles of the Moorish Nation: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, hibu, haq, salam, huriyatun, wa adl, because these are the 5 principles on which we should be meeting our brothers daily, be they Moorish, conscious, or otherwise, be they European or otherwise. And they're also the 5 principles that we should have ever in mind, just like the arm, leg, arm, head, the pentagram, 5-pointed star, ourselves. We should be holding these 5 principles just the same while we're conducting our studies. Because, as I said, we will be covering a few different heavy topics, and when you explore them, you'll see the implications and see that this is what has been holding us back for the longest, this silent agenda, this quiet war, these silent weapons that are operating even as I speak against us, organized by malicious powers that be, using science that could free the people, but instead is being selfishly used to empower the few over the many. The same Illuminati, elitist program that we've speculated so much about, theorized so much about, codified in a governmental plan that was enacted 1954 against the minorities, meaning the Negroes, coloreds, blacks, poor whites, Hispanics, those labeled as West Indian and Indian, etc. Anybody who doesn't fit the lily white, red skin description, the Amazon Franciscans, etc. When we're going into this high science, we have to go in with a proper orientation, which is why we have those 5 principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. The noble prophet said that my people may learn to love instead of hate. So we have to flip the polarity, because love is the highest vibration. Love is the vibration that God vibrates with. Love is the Christ nature of your true illuminated soul, risen from the grave of Amenta. So you have 97% of your light trapped in the ego, and 3% the Holy Trinity outside, ever trying to seek to come in and redeem yourself. And you redeem that by surrendering yourself to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Thou shalt know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. But you have to receive the truth in the right state of mind, which is where the love comes in. And that truth will allow you to conduct yourself so that you are free, and you are also enforcing justice, leading by example, of course. So I'm going to read a short description of each of those 5 principles. We might build on it a little bit, and then we'll go straight into this Rex 84. I'll be reading from pages... you can purchase this on RV Bay publication. Also probably find a free online PDF, but without the commentary of the Master Tashriq Bey. But I'm going to be reading from pages 7. I'm going to be dealing with mind control in America and a few other things, okay? But firstly, those 5 principles: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Islam. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, the 5 principles of social harmony. It is very important to have a peaceful and harmonious state of mind when acquiring knowledge through study. Therefore, we will review the 5 principles associated with Moorish culture and adopt their meanings into our thought processes and actions. Love. Love is an intense and affectionate concern for others. It embodies caring, respect, acknowledgement, and admiration, conjoined with benevolence and mercy. Learn to love instead of hate, Moors. Love is constructive. Hate and fear are destructive. Much gathers more on every plane of existence, so filling yourself with love will attract more love to you and people who are also in that high godlike vibration, whereas hatred will attract detriment and only destruction. So we have to be in a state of pure divine love so that we can greet others on that same level. Truth. Truth is the quality of being true in allied senses. Honesty, uprightness, virtue, integrity, righteousness. Truth is also the character of being, or the disposition to be, true to a person, principle, cause, etc. Truth is the living God itself. Thou shalt know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So our whole goal is to seek truth, because light means knowledge. Knowledge means freedom. Freedom is everybody's job on a global scale. But that starts with knowledge, and knowledge is truth. So we have to become an embodiment of the living truth. So we're talking on our square with integrity and uprightness. And as we conduct ourselves as sons of our mother, we strive ever to live according to the principles of mother, to the principles of nature. The great Zodiacus, the principle of the universe. So when we get into our own divine space, when we go into that cavity of our heart, the true temple of Allah for real, then we make contact with that truth. It illuminates our third eye, and now we're on the level. So we'll build on that. Peace. Peace is the absence of noise, movement, or activity. Peace is freedom from, or the cessation of, war or hostilities. That condition of a nation or community in which it is not at war with another. Peace is a ratification or treaty between two powers previously at war, a state of peace, concord, and amity with a person or with a nation. So we want peace on the external, and peace is also what you would gain by way of meditation, just ceasing movement. Being able to be still with yourself and having peace with yourself, having peace between your own divine mind, but also between your own divine mind and your ego, but also peace between the powers that be externally and in your own person. You have to be able to cease from activity, cease from thought, cease from, so that you can receive in the proper manner. So it will be like the rough ashlar or the deformed stone that you're trying to build your temple with, trying to build your pyramid with, compared to the perfect Masonic cube that has been perfectly carved into shape, perfectly receptive to all of the divine light of the above and the below. So you have to still yourself when you're in a state of study. You have to still your mind. You have to establish a sort of peace between all the different components of yourself, between all your different ideologies, etc., or whatever, so that you can acquire knowledge in the right spirit and interpret it minus ego. Okay? Freedom. Freedom is the exemption from, the release from, and or the absence of forced servitude, usury, ignorance, slavery, imprisonment, or the like. Freedom is also exemption from arbitrary control, colonial imposition, a color of authority, a color of law, etc. Freedom is the quality of existing in a state of ease and facility, in full life, status, etc., or in propria persona. So all of our endeavors are to seek freedom, freedom to choose our own destiny, freedom to abide by the principles of our mothers and fathers, freedom to build without any colonial forces infringing on our rights. Freedom within yourself means being aligned with the truth and not with the lower self-ego, which is manipulatable. And as we go into the plan, you'll see that your lower self, your carnal mind, is completely slave to the forces that be, and only your divine mind coming in and influencing your carnal mind and subjugating the carnal nature, that is the only way that you can be a free navigator on this plane. Islam and justice. Justice is the quality of being morally just or righteous. The justice of right and just dealing with self and others. Just conduct, integrity, rectitude, the observance of divine law, etc. So, Moors, we are divine beings. Now, what does that mean? That means that in our natural state, when we're in full life, in propria persona, then we don't really need any external law, any external creed, any external religion to influence us to do what's right. That's where our common sense comes from. Our common sense comes from the God within, speaking words of wisdom that are immediately enacted by our physical body and that are influential on others who might not be as right and exact and as in tune with the divine mother, divine father, divine son principle inside of them. And so they need certain ordinances and codes. Let me ask you a question. How did our divine mothers and fathers, the great Moabites, the great Moors, how did they come up with all these laws and codes? Did a voice from heaven come down? Did a celestial being come down and influence them and hand them a guidebook? Not necessarily. Maybe they just were they had such an internal integrity that they were able to speak justice off the top of their head by common sense, which establishes the common law. C.M. Bay said common sense is the highest law of the land, but how many people can use common sense? Not many. Common sense is the consummation of all sciences, and when we're studying, it's only to educe or educate or bring out that wisdom that's already encoded in our own DNA. So when we're navigating on this earth plane, in all of our relations, and also when we're acquiring knowledge so that we can govern ourselves more effectively, we are to be using these 5 principles, these 5 points of fellowship. And actually, I'll give you a little trick. I like to use my hands, because each of my hands have 5 fingers, go figure, 10 coming together being the 10 Kabbalistic spheres or whatever. But separately, then you have I, self, law, and master on the left. And you have love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice on the right. And I'm sorry, it's actually love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice on the left, being corresponding to the above, and I, self, law, and master on the right, corresponding to the below as it goes. So I just wanted to build briefly on those principles as we're breaking into the most important part, which is going to be dealing with the silent weapon executive order number 11490, King Alfred plan, known colloquially. Now I'll tell you, this is some kind of heavy stuff. So just kind of follow with me. I'm going to try to explain it and break it down a little bit. But we're dealing with, firstly, we're going to be dealing with energy. Firstly, a little bit of background on the King Alfred plan. King Alfred plan was established after or during the World War II, where the powers that be were trying to establish they were trying to perfect their system of social engineering. And so they actually created certain what they call silent weapons or social weapons or biological warfare, which is not necessarily chemicals and gases, but rather data and computer programs and wisdom recorded in the minds of men that they implement on a global scale in order to control the ignorant populace. And ultimately, the goal of these silent weapons is to, as I'm going to read, take the power and the resources out of the hands of the weak and ignorant and useless and put them in the hands of the self-disciplined and those who govern themselves. Noting, of course, that the Moors, or the so-called minority, labeled Negroes, coloreds, blacks, Indians, Latinos, etc. in this country, are actually the ones who codified all the laws and established all of the scientific systems, etc., that these so-called disciplined and organized and intelligent European sons are using to establish their silent weapons of genocide and slavery against us. Keeping that well in mind, I'm going to go into the first principle, and also keep in mind, and also I want you to pick up the book. It's cheap, on RV Bay Publications. I might even link it in the description box. But keep in mind that the silent weapon program that's covered in this book that I'm going to be breaking in right now is actually the Third World War. The Third World War is not fought with atomic bombs or anything like that. It's that we're way too advanced of a civilization right now, and that's very messy because you have all that atomic waste to clean up and all that stuff. The rich and wealthy and powerful are much more intelligent than that. The Third World War, already going on now, is fought with biological weapons, technology, computers, economics, okay? Social engineering, that sort of thing. It's fought with mathematics. It's fought with knowledge. This is the information age, the age of Aquarius. So remembering that, I'm going to go into the first principle of this silent war against us that we really need to understand, titled energy. Oh, and also keep in mind, the Zodiac Constitution penned by C.M. Bay said that and this is entirely true, verifiable, that the law of the Moors, the Zodiac Constitution, is actually the 12 signs of the Zodiac, the numbers from 0 to 9, the science of geometry or mathematics. That is the Constitution of the Moors that we use to rule the world for 1,200 plus years. Going into that, we're going to go into page 7, energy. Energy is recognized as the key to all activity on Earth. Natural science is the study of the sources and control of natural energy. In social science, theoretically expressed as economics, is the study of the sources and control of social energy. And I also want to bring to your attention, as covered later in this book, that the principles that are applied to one energy system are completely applicable to every other energy system. That's the principle of as above, so below, or the principle of correspondence, meaning that the laws of one plane equally govern the laws of another plane. So meaning when I'm studying my astrology, the 12 houses, the zodiac, etc., and the characteristics of the beast of the zodiac, or the 12 signs, then I can actually apply those principles to a lower plane, such as economics, or a lower plane such as botany, or however you might govern it, human characteristics, etc. They're saying the same principle applies here. Natural science, the study of energy on a natural level, applies also to the social science or social engineering, and that's how they're using it. So theoretically, social science theoretically expressed as economics is the study of the sources and control of social energy. Both are bookkeeping systems. Mathematics. Therefore, mathematics is the primary energy science. And the bookkeeper can be king if the public can be kept ignorant of the methodology of the bookkeeping. So mathematics is the primary bookkeeping system. Mathematics is the code of civilization. Zeros and ones, and twos and threes, all the way up to the number 9, the golden number corresponding with I, which is you yourself, the higher mind expressed on the physical plane, man born in 9 months on his square, curled up on a 90-degree angle in the womb, yeah. All science is merely a means to an end. The means is knowledge. The end is control. Beyond this remains only one issue. Who will be the beneficiary? Who's going to benefit from all this high science left by our ancestors? Will it be the custodians, those pale skins wearing the red fezzes? Or will it be the originators and the codifiers of science and civilization on this planet? Just some food for thought. All this said without malice, only with a calculated understanding expressed in a rapidity of speech. What am I going to read next? Consequently, although the so-called moral issues were raised about them establishing this Third World War and these silent weapons programs, in view of the law of natural selection, meaning Darwinism, the so-called evolution of man from the ape to the humanoid, which is actually the law of evolution of the Jacobian experiments, as covered in Clock 1 and Clock 2. Although the so-called moral issues were raised, in view of the law of natural selection or Darwinism, it was agreed that a nation or world of people who will not use their intelligence are no better than animals who do not have intelligence. Such a people are beasts of burden and stakes on the table by choice and consent. So they're going pretty hard on us. They're talking about the Moors, the subjugated, defeated, disenfranchised, ignorant Moors, or the Negroes, coloreds, blacks, West Indians, Indians, and Latinos of this here soil. So listen up, yo. Consequently, in the interest of future world order, peace and tranquility. They're talking peace and tranquility for the Roman nation, the united global Roman nation now. It was decided to privately wage a quiet war against the American public with an ultimate objective of permanently shifting the natural and social energy or wealth of the undisciplined and irresponsible many into the hands of the self-disciplined, responsible, and worthy few. In order to implement this objective, it was necessary to create, secure, and apply new weapons, future weapons they're talking about, which, as it turned out, were a class of weapons so subtle, sophisticated, and undetectable in their principle of operation and public appearance as to earn for themselves the name silent weapons. Silent weapons. Now I'm going to go a little further and describe what a silent weapon is from this book now. It says, everything that is expected from an ordinary weapon is expected from a silent weapon by its creators, differing only in the manner of operation or functioning. Silent weapons shoot situations instead of bullets, propelled by data processing instead of chemical reaction explosions, originating from bits of data instead of grains of gunpowder, coming from a computer instead of a gun, operated by a computer programmer instead of a marksman, under the orders of a banking cartel instead of a military general. So you see, this is like warfare 3.4.10.0. They've upped the ante. So they're not fighting you out in the street. So y'all are talking about, oh, we need to organize and we need to get our guns and all that. That's silly, that's juvenile, that's childish. They can stop a revolution with guns any time of the day because they are the masters. They have all of the resources. They have control of the munitions plants. So you can go and purchase as many bullets as your fiat currency can buy, trying to fight your little juvenile war, whereas they've got the munitions plants and they've got control of the resources. So that's utterly juvenile, and these European tomahawks are fighting on an entirely different level. So we're talking about the silent wars, the actual real life wars that are being used in this 3rd, 4th, 10th, all the way up to the future world war, with the purpose of enslaving and ultimately genociding the minority who refuse to use their divine intelligence to become a benefit to themselves and their nation. Going on. It makes no obvious explosive noises, causes no obvious physical or mental injuries, and does not obviously interfere with anyone's daily social life. Yet, it makes an unmistakable noise, causes unmistakable physical and mental damage, and unmistakably interferes with daily social life, i.e., unmistakable to a trained observer, one who knows what to look for. Meaning you've been educated, you've been initiated into the science of silent warfare, and now you can see it all around you operating in your daily life. I highlighted this next line, so I want you to pay close attention. The public cannot comprehend this weapon, and therefore cannot believe that they are being attacked and subdued by a weapon outside your range of comprehension. outside the range of most people's comprehension. And I also want to bring a kind of unrelated but quite related topic, stating that when we're dealing with consciousness and we become enlightened and we break free of the yoke of Christianity and artificial education systems that are really miseducation, diseducation systems operated and funded by the so-called enemy, once we break free of that and we start getting into consciousness and raising our own degrees of understanding, then we have this tendency to think that the majority is working on this, but we realize very quickly that the majority is not. Most people, most so-called black people or minorities or Negroes in this country are still operating under Christianity, which means that they were never touched by that wave of revolutionary consciousness that came firstly from the WWIII and Marcus Garvey, bringing the word to the people that they are not Negroes, blacks, or coloreds, but they descend from the Moorish Nation. And all the movements that sparked out of that would not have been possible but for that first wave, that first generation coming in 1910 and 1913 respectively. So most of our people, though, had not been touched by that. So most of our people still operating on Negro, black, and colored and Christianity, etc., and still thinking that they're citizens of this United States or Union States Republic, when really there's a Ku Klux Klan Knights of Columbus oath to never allow the descendants of the Moorish Nation, the defeated Moorish Nation of this hemisphere, to ever become citizens of this Union States Republic. Most of those people aren't going to be able to understand this. So this video truly is only for the select few who've already been initiated into consciousness and want to know more about the organized, orchestrated agenda against them by the said powers that be, whom we call the Illuminati, giving them our power when really they have a borrowed light. They have a borrowed gnosis, whereas we are the natural Illuminati. Our pineal gland is naturally shining when it hasn't been calcified by all this false information and garbage food, etc. So going on, the public might instinctively feel that something is wrong, meaning the uninitiated might know that, yeah, things are messed up in the country. They might instinctively feel that, but they can't put their finger on it. But because of the technical nature of the silent weapon, they cannot express their feelings in a rational way or handle the problems with intelligence. Therefore, they do not know how to cry for help and do not know how to associate with others to defend themselves against it. When a silent weapon is applied gradually to the public adjusts, adapts to its presence, and learns to tolerate its encroachment on their lives until the pressure, psychological via economic, becomes too great and they crack up. Now this is so important because you've ever had that phenomenon where they've raised the price of bread, they raised the price of gas, they raised the price of milk, they changed something in the matrix, they altered the code of the matrix, taxes go up for no reason, they elect a strange politician whom you know that you and nobody you know voted for, but now he's in charge and he's making all these decisions that indirectly kind of sort of affect your life. You hear about wars, your people are being slaughtered in the streets, you understand that there's poison in your food, poison on the radio, poison on the TV, and nobody seems to understand anything. You see that these encroachments on your freedom are coming in, you see that there's something wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it. What they're saying is that like the dog on the nail who just whines and moans but doesn't get his ass up and see what's wrong, they're saying that that's the natural state of most of these uninitiated people. Most people just accept that the matrix code has changed and adjust themselves to it. That's the sad state of things. Knowledge is power. It spells freedom. Freedom is everybody's job. Meaning whether you're uninitiated or not, ignorant or not, Christian or not, it's your responsibility to understand these things and to learn to navigate based on these principles. So I'm going to continue the last two, or the last chapter, and then the last paragraph, and then go on to deal with distraction theory. Therefore, the silent weapon is a type of biological warfare. It attacks the vitality, options, and mobility of the individuals of a society by knowing, understanding, manipulating, and attacking their sources of natural and social energy and their physical, mental, and emotional strengths and weaknesses. Now, in this book, if time permitted, I would read the whole thing. A lot of it is very technical, but it explains exactly what's being going on with our situation. Basically, the other portions of the book draw an analogy and say that all energy systems are the same. So by studying natural energy systems, such as the science of electronics, they were able to reverse engineer and apply them to social engineering, and also to a computer-generated economic system that keeps tabs on all of your, think Patriot Act, keeps tabs on all of your purchases, your likes and dislikes, etc., on a global scale now, and so that they can manipulate it, and they can do something called shock testing, where they might raise the price of gas $3, see how the public reacts to it, see who stops buying gas, see how it affects how many people show up to work the next week or whatever, and then they can say, okay, so that's how people are operating. Or when we raised the gas prices, they went to this store that was 5 cents lower in this certain neighborhood that's populated mainly by minorities, whereas in the so-called rich white people neighborhoods, they continued going to Exxon because they liked the clerk. They can figure out down to a science based on mathematical algorithms how society works, and they can thus control it. And I'm going to give another degree that's inside of the book where it talks about, there's a quote from Rockefeller, the original Rockefeller, the mastermind Rockefeller, who said, if you give me control of a nation's currency, the printing of a nation's currency, I care not who makes its laws, because truly currency is the law, or energy, the exchange of energy is the law. Think of the word currency. That's telling you in the language, in the diabolical English language that we're not even supposed to be speaking because it's just a bastardized German language made for slave or Slavic people. In the very language, it's telling you that all energy is the same. Economics is the same thing as electricity. And our bodies are electrical. Our society is electrical. It's all built on energy coming out of the sun and the light of Sirius in the womb of the great mother Allah. So in the very language, it's telling you that. So basically, the silent wars are complex computer algorithms built on natural science and mathematics used to control every facet of society globally. This is the true Illuminati plot, okay? And you can't really escape it because everybody else is operating on this software. Everything is energy. If you control the current, you control the energy. And those who have these super mega quantum computers that can calculate and map out the entire universe in like 3 seconds, look into quantum computers or D-Wave computer, then you can see how these silent weapons are operating. There was somebody who was one of the scientists who designed D-Wave, this master quantum computer, and said that standing inside of this, in the room with this computer, it was like standing in the temple of God, because that computer actually gives them that sort of power over reality in such a sense that they can even manipulate quantum realities or altered dimensions, etc. So basically, this is high science that we really need to understand how we're being boned so we can adjust and navigate accordingly. So I'm going to read another short portion dealing with distractions and distraction theory. So bear with me. Oh. And this is the most important part. Diversion, the primary strategy. Experience has proven that the simplest method of securing a silent weapon and gaining control of the public is to keep the public undisciplined and ignorant of basic systems principles on the one hand, while keeping them confused, disorganized, and distracted with matters of no real importance on the other hand. The security of their silent weapon is based on keeping the public, or the minority, or the Moors, or the Negroes, coloreds, and niggers, or blacks, undisciplined and ignorant on the one hand, confused, disorganized, and distracted on the other hand. Distracted with matters of no real importance. They got us in the rat race while they're running the whole zoo. Ain't that something? So, this is achieved by 3 separate points. Firstly, the miseducation agenda. Disengaging their minds, sabotaging their mental activities by providing a low-quality program of public education when they're telling you what they're providing low-quality education in, these are the exact same things you need to reorient yourself with along the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. As a nation now, systematized now, because they're dealing in systems, so we have to get more systematic in our thinking. The Moors invented the game of chess, and when they played chess for property. They played chess, and the winner of the chess, he won the war. So instead of losing lives on the battlefield, sacrificing real pawns, they would sacrifice pawns on the game. So basically, Moors are the master strategists. So they're using our strategic mathematical approach to life and reality against us. So we have to reorient ourselves with that. So excuse me for diverging too much. But it says, by providing a low-quality program of public education in mathematics, logic, systems design, and economics, and by discouraging technical creativity, meaning we need to up the ante on our personal and private education in mathematics, logic, systems design, and economics, and technical creativity. 2, engaging their emotions, increasing their self-indulgence, and their indulgence in emotional and physical activities by unrelenting emotional affrontations and attacks, also called mental and emotional rape, by way of a constant barrage of sex, violence, and wars in the media, especially the TV and the newspapers. Ain't that something? Basically, they attack us, mental and emotional rape, by showing us sex, violence, and wars all the time. Giving them what they desire in excess, quote-unquote, junk food for thought, and depriving them of what they really need, namely political, economic, social, and spiritual security, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, all the essentials of life. Depriving them of that, but giving them everything that they don't need. Making sure that they have enough money to buy a Big Mac, but not enough money to buy proper education. Because education is really priceless. Education is really priceless, yo. And 3, this is the most important with regards to Moors. And this is in the program. They wrote this in their own program. Remember, this is the Third World War. So everything that we've been speculating about in private, they've already mapped. And the reason that we can speculate on the matrix and analyze our situation is because the matrix has been coded a certain way. Matrix just means a womb. Society is a matrix. Society is a womb for the mind of everybody who's born onto the earth plane in a certain geographical time-space coordinate. So because we were born geographically in North America in the time-space coordinate of the colonized, of colonial America under European occupation in 2018, etc., then we are inside of the matrix that has been provided for us, already set up when you get here. Ain't that something? Didn't they do us justice, right? So basically, number 3 is rewriting history and law and subjecting the public to the deviant creation, thus being able to shift their thinking from personal needs to highly fabricated outside priorities. That rewritten history and law is the basis of Moorish science. That's the fabric of what WWIII brought us, saying, I brought you everything it takes you to save a nation. Now take it and save yourselves. Yeah. Oh, and I want to cover 4 more points. Sorry if the tape ran a little long, y'all. My intention with these tapes is usually to have them like 30 minutes. You can watch it rather than watching American Dad or whatever. But I mean, sometimes I get carried away. So thanks you guys for indulging me with that. But so just summary of those 4 points. So they attack us in 4 different regions with the diversion or the distraction theory, as I like to call it. Media, schools, entertainment, and work. Media. Keep the adult public attention diverted away from the real social issues and captivated by matters of no real importance. Schools. Keep the young public ignorant of real mathematics, real economics, real law, and real history. They're boning us in those school systems, yo. They're boning us. Entertainment. Oh, excuse me. Carter G. Woodson, a gentleman whom you all should research. He was one of the early Moors who wrote, what was the name of that book? The Miseducation of the Negro. And he said it took him 20 years. That's back in the 1900s. Said it took him 20 years to undo the programming that was done then. That was before they castrated the school system. That was before Rockefeller established the General Board of Education in 1913 or 1911 or 1908 or something. Those numbers, yo, that timeline. But yeah, so that was before then. But he said it took him 20 years to undo it then. So imagine nowadays, yo. Imagine nowadays. Entertainment. Keep the public entertainment below a 6th grade level. And I just want to bring to y'all's attention that all the sports and stuff like that, all this music and all that stuff is very, very juvenile. Like, I like edutainment. When I'm getting entertained, then I like to be, when I'm getting entertained, I like to be educated as well. So rather than turning on Drake or somebody who talks about his own ego and how inflated and how well off he's become by conforming to this European society and dancing for the European slave master, etc., I'd rather turn on so-called KRS-One or Immortal Technique or Lost Children of Babylon and get some high science while I'm dancing and grooving to the song, etc. And like the football and things like that, like that's child stuff. That's 6th grade level stuff. It really is juvenile when you think about it. When you think about how our people, how far back we're set, we're at least 50 to 100 years behind the European as far as real world understanding of global politics, etc., understanding how this silent war works, and how systems work, behind understanding our own selves, etc. But we're dealing with footballs, reaching between another man's legs, peeing on ourselves because we can't stop the game just so we can go take a potty break. Like that's juvenile stuff for real. And that's how they get us. In work. Keep the public busy with no time to think back on the farm with the other animals. Man, a lot of y'all pulling overtime and just working 9 to 5, working from dark 30 in the morning to dark 30 at night. So sick and tired of being sick and tired that you don't remember how to not be sick and tired. And then you have a few little ones, pour some of your life force into them. And then now you got to work even harder and harder without ever getting a proper basis. And then they go into the school program, they go into the entertainment, into the media. And before they know it, they're at work doing the same thing. So it's a ridiculous cycle, but I want you to know that all of that is part of the silent war program against the minorities. And some of the things that's not directly covered in this book that we should also be cognizant of is the poisoning of the food, the poisoning of the water, the poisoning of the air, all these chemtrails and all that stuff. That stuff is real, y'all. But it pertains to us, though. So don't think just because there's a European on YouTube talking about it that it's not a direct attack at you yourself, Mr. Sleeping Moorish American, because it absolutely is. Malcolm X said, when America's got a cold, Black America's got pneumonia. So if you got a European scared, and he's one of the lily white prized ones, then imagine how much it's affecting you yourself, whom they've already launched war at. Just think about it that way. And in conclusion, I just want to say, remember your brothers. Remember your brothers. And I'm going to say the covenant of the Asiatic nation, because it is important to remember that all Moors are in this thing together. We are all brothers and sisters. And we have to unionize. And even though some might call ourselves Hebrew Israelites, followers of the Kemetic culture, some might be in a church, etc., they can still be saved. They can still be brought to a proper understanding of their own science and integrated back with the knowledge of their mothers and fathers. Even though we're all in different schools and factions, we are all Asiatics. We are 3/4 of the world's population. The ruddy red-skinned person, the European landlord, is 1/4 of the population. He got us thinking we're a minority, and only calls us that because he's reduced our mind to that of a minor. So, the covenant of the Asiatic nation. We are the children of one Father, provided for by his care. In the breast of one mother hath given us suck. Let the bonds of affection, therefore, unite us with our brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in our Father's land. And when we separate in the world, remember the bonds that bind us to love and unity, and prefer not a brother over our own kin. If our brother is in trouble, assist him. If our sister is in trouble, forsake her not. Thus shall peace and happiness dwell in our Father's house forever, and his care be extended to us all in our love of each other. With that, I just want to say, Hibu, Haq, Salam, Huriyatun wa Adil. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Khalid Amin Rabbi, your host. Thank you for joining me on that thought trail. Please pick up the King Alfred plan and share any knowledge that you have in the comment section if you like. Islam. I love you all, and I wish you well in your travels.